Hi, I'm Carol Ann Tutera. My friends call me Kat, and I've been referred to as an ambassador for aging. Welcome to Adventures in Aging. Today, my guest host is Mary Kay. She's a delightful woman I've known for many, many years, and I admire so much because she truly has embraced the idea of aging gracefully. And Mary Kay, I know that you have a lot of wisdom, you have a lot of knowledge, and I know there's a lot that you can share with us. And when we spoke last time, you said it was key to know that as you age, you need to keep active. So tell us, why do you find that necessary?
Well, through my own experience of taking it easy, and at first, when you first retire, you're just feeling so good with the freedom and the time to sleep in late when you want to, and just do whatever you want to do each day. In other words, there's no daily demands on you. You can make your own schedule. But I found over time, I still felt like I wanted to be working, doing something worthwhile, because as you know, years ago when we first met, I was already beyond what was the normal retirement age of 65 that was kind of put on our generation. And I was 67, and I came to work for Soda Pele. And looking back on that time, I realized the energy I still had, and I think that's what a lot of people today still feel when they go into retirement. You have to have something else to do, because I found that after a year or so, you fall into not doing that much, and my big thing was I love to watch movies, and as I told you, I said, I could watch one or two movies in the morning, and then just getting up out of the chair became painful. And you do have to stay in shape. Everybody keeps telling me that. Now I'm 81, and it's even more so. I feel the difference when I don't stay on my feet doing things, having something to do. And but it is hard for me. I do have to say that mentally it's hard to do those things, because even exercising becomes painful. And I do a lot of yard work, but you have to keep your mind active. I find I know who I want to talk about, bring up their name, and it doesn't come to me always as easy. And it's a matter of working at getting, I think it's a matter of working at getting older. It's a job just to keep on your feet and active. And, it's a rare time in life when you realize, I used to tell my clients when I had my insurance business, I was dealing with the senior market, and I was always telling them, you're not going to wake up tomorrow and be one day younger. You're going to be one day older. And we're living longer. And you need to protect your income. And at that time, I was selling long-term care. So we are living longer. We have to find ways, I think, to keep our minds more active. And, I used to laugh and say, well, yeah, when I get older, and you retire from work, there's very little in the line of work that older people can do. And I used to make a joke about working at Walmart and being a greeter for $9 an hour. And you go into Walmart, and there's a lot of older people. They want to look for something to do to stay active.
So what are you doing to keep active then?
Well, I take care of the yard. I have a big backyard, and so I'm, planting in more things, and we're here cutting down a lot of stuff. I'm trying to be physical. I do have a swimming pool, and but you don't use it very much during the winter months, so you get a little bit more activity. I do have family around with me, and they live around the corner, so you can get up. I can walk. Everybody says walk. Well, you don't want to walk by yourself. I'm kept younger, I think, by living in a neighborhood with younger people, and they still have children that are in school.
So do you find that your activities have changed from your 60s to your 70s and now getting into your 80s?
Yes, drastically. Now,
and is it harder to keep those activities up now?
Yes, it really is, because you can't help but physically age. So it takes more of an effort, and what is available for you to do, you have to spend money to go out and do it. Like if you wanted to take yoga or go to a gym, and a lot of the older people don't want to spend that kind of money. You do have to be careful as you're aging to manage your money, because you don't know how long you're going to live. And so everybody, as they get older, I think, spends their money more cautiously. So I can swim in the pool. I take care of the pool myself. So you're out there, you're brushing and you're scooping up the leaves. Everybody has big trees around here. So the outside can keep me busy, and I work about an hour to an hour and a half, usually every day out back. And then I come in and I watch a movie and have a late breakfast. And but it is a constant effort to find things to do, just to keep going.
So right. So are you saying that a social life is challenging for you as you've aged? Because
it is. Let me tell you, I've thought about that a lot, because I'm in good health. And I would like to still be working at something, not necessarily full-time, but maybe something part-time. And as I think a lot of older people like to do. But it's hard. It's really hard to stay in the right mental attitude. And because you're not, as I said, you're not getting a day younger every day. You're getting a day older. And
so where do you find your social life then? Where would you recommend people to find a social life?
Well, I've thought about that, because down here it's good in one respect to be around the younger people, but as you age, if you live long enough, you're losing your friends.
Right.
And that becomes a problem. That is a part of the problem of aging. You want to live a long life, you want to stay healthy, but not a lot of people in my age bracket are as healthy as I am. And, I've already lost a couple of friends that are a lot younger than me to cancer. Mm. And my son-in-law died a year ago, February, of pancreatic cancer. He was only 61 years old. And, another friend, a mutual friend of ours, is now not in great shape, probably going to die of cancer. So that's the sad part. You're alienated from people. So I always found that when they started building these retirement complexes where you can go in your later years, maybe in early retirement if you can afford it, and you sell your home and so forth, and hopefully you've saved some money up. But they've been a godsend to the people who can go in there, because you do have a built-in group of people your own age that you can relate to. And, there's activities for you. They can take you out to your doctor's appointments and so forth. But if you're living alone, it's a lot more difficult. You need to probably plan. But I like living among the younger people, and only because it helps you keep thinking young.
Right,
But
right.
then there is the downside to it where, like right now, I'm meeting the parents. My family's introducing me to their friends in the neighborhood whose parents happen to live near, too.
Right.
And we're getting together, and I had a formal tea here 2 weeks ago where some of my daughter's friends invited the parents, the women, the mothers of these girls, and I had a tea here for them. And that's very nice. So you do have to find unusual ways when you live in a neighborhood like this. But I wanted the safety of the neighborhood, and it's a good location for everything.
So
I'm happy with that. But, growing old and when you're losing your friends, that's a very difficult time.
Yeah, I've heard that from a lot of people, and my mother up there in her 90s now, she's saying the same thing. We're trying to get her out to a home in Arizona. I've always believed that kids keep you young, so if you could stay around the children and people younger than you, they're the ones who are going to help keep you young, and I think that's the best thing to do as we age.
Oh, listen, that has helped me greatly because I've got 4 great-grandchildren now, and they're just adorable, and they're fun to be with, and my daughter has their family over a lot, and I can just go around the corner. We spend all the holidays together. That helps us. And but it's a bittersweet time in life because it's happy with the family around, but it's also so sad, I'm losing a lot of my best and oldest friends, and, it's not as much fun to do. You just don't do the same things when you're by yourself.
Right.
And, you don't feel confident in taking a car trip somewhere, and, driving becomes a problem. I hate to drive the freeways. I mean, I'm going between 65 and 70, and they're going by me at 80 and 90. And everybody passes me, and I find that disconcerting. And but my mother always said, "It is forever thus." That was one of her famous statements about life, and life never changes. I don't think I'm unique in this day and age. Other people have been in the same spot.
Well, and I've also heard that aging is not for sissies either. It's a very tough road, and it's one that I think we all choose to either take lightly and we embrace it, or we choose to go down the path where it's going to take us out. So we clearly have that choice. Right.
Well, you know what? Like I spoke about earlier, having the time, and I watch a lot of old movies, and that I find a lot of pleasure in because it was a different time of making movies, and they weren't so, there was a protocol and certain things. They weren't as detailed with things that you don't really need to see in a movie. The stories were great.
Right.
And it brings back memories. And, that's the wonderful thing about life. If when you're younger, you create a lot of memorable times in your life, these are the things you cherish later on.
Right.
And one of the things I saw, one of the movies from years ago, my father, during the war years, he had a poker group. So when the guys came around to play poker, my mother and I would go out to the movies at night, and we would walk. And this was in Philadelphia. And we'd walk to the Benner Theater. And I remember this movie, and I saw it recently, and that brought back these old memories. And it was called The Enchanted Cottage. And it was a beautiful story about a disfigured guy that came out of the service and this very homely girl, and they meet. And when they're living in this cottage, each became more handsome and beautiful to one another through their love. And so different things like that remind you of your past, things that we used to didn't have to have, like car seats for our kids. We didn't have to have seat belts. We didn't have dishwashers. Just the things, the era that I've gone through and how we still survived without the things that we deal with today or have today and think are necessary. How simple life was before.
Oh, isn't that the truth? And speaking of things in the past, if you had a rear view mirror, tell me, what would you have done differently? Knowing where you'd be today, what would you do differently?
Nothing.
That's great. I love it.
Nothing, because every day that I lived, I enjoyed where I was, even if it was a sad thing that was going to happen. Everything that happened was meant to be, and you learn from everything that you go through in life, and you have to just embrace every day, get the most out of your life that you can. I did all my traveling that I wanted to do, all my travel goals to places and the way I traveled. I did the work I wanted with all the freedom, and which I loved having my own business, which I'm sure you can understand that.
Right.
And my biggest sacrifice was when I came to work for you. And I always said to you, you're the only person I would have worked from, 8 to 5, because I was always used to my freedom in my other job and making my own schedule. And all the trips that I made into Mexico when I had the other business in addition to my insurance, I was always making money. And it was what I made that I earned. And I wasn't getting a paycheck. And that's, I've always been very independent, so I embraced everything in life. And everything that happened in my life was a lesson. And I wouldn't change it, because it all molded me as to how I lived my life from the time I was a little girl. And I think you just have to you have to recognize that you're in a learning curve. Sometimes I get appalled at how the young people today, how they're not taking advantage and of the education, that they're supposedly being given.
Right. So speaking of education, and I know how you are with computers, would you have changed anything? And do you think computers are important at your age?
Well, no.
Why is that?
Well, I don't think they're important at my age, but it has helped if you want to stay in touch with people that are far away rather than a telephone bill. I mean, today you can get on the computer and send emails, or you can, there's those other things. I used to, what's that program where you can see them? You're sitting in the computer.
Skype?
Yeah, Skype. I used that a little bit, but I didn't use it right away. And then when I learned how to use it, it was okay. But what I find is it's too sedentary for me. And when I get on the computer, I get so many emails. And, other people are getting into getting your addresses. So, you buy one thing, and the next thing you know, you're getting 10 other advertisements on it. I see what the computer age has done to my grandchildren. I mean,
right.
They don't go anywhere without having their computer, a handheld computer, not the little phones, but these little computers. And they don't know how to socialize. That's all they want to do. They come to the table, they take it to the restaurants, when we come for holiday dinners. And the parents are so much into the computers because everything now today in work is on computers. And the parents don't even correct the kids and say, put that away. I've learned from observing now, they don't know how to socialize with people.
No, I'm definitely gonna agree with you there as well. I don't think they do either. But
I blame the parent.
Well, all right. Okay.
But see, that's me. I would say there's a time. What's the old expression? There's a time and a place for everything.
Exactly. There sure is. And when you're around the table with family, and as you know, we're all aging, and you really start to appreciate family and friends more and more as we age. And I think the younger generation does not. They don't know how to do that.
They don't know how to. These kids, and it really upsets me, because you can't bond with these children at all, because all they want to do is stick their head in. They've got all these programs. I mean, I noticed now there was a game that they were doing called Pokemon. I don't even know what it was. They're
right.
And they get the adults, and they're all running around the park near me, and they're going Pokemon hunting. And there's adults and kids and everybody. But it was like a fad. It just went for so long. I mean, maybe 3/4 of a year, and now they're not doing it anymore. They're doing other things. They run out and they say hello to me, and then they're back in their rooms on their computer. They don't know how to sit down and have a conversation with you. They don't know how to sit properly at a dinner table, and I don't know. It's very disturbing to me, but like my mother said, and my father told my mother, he said, don't get upset. Keep your mouth shut and your pocketbook open.
Now, your mom and dad had some great pearls of wisdom. What others are your favorites?
Oh, gosh. Well, I'm trying to think. That one was... keep your mouth shut and your pocketbook open. I always loved that one. I'm just trying. I know that there was an awful lot of things. It was an era where they never really interfered with what we were doing, but it was an era where they gave us such a good foundation that there was nothing in my life that I felt that they ever corrected. It was just a different generation. I was just very fortunate to have parents like that. One of my girls from church I had over for lunch last week, and I was helping her put together a wardrobe. She's going to San Francisco. And I had some things I was going to, loan her and give her to take. And she had a horrible growing up, and terrible parents and terrible situations that happened to her. She was raised in another country. And, the big thing she kept repeating to me was, you're so lucky you had wonderful parents like that. And my mother adored my father. She was a stay-at-home mom. She was lucky to do that. But then we didn't have places in those days for women. There were no big shopping centers, you know. You didn't go out and buy a lot of clothes or have, 2 cars in the family. You only had 1 car. But when he came home from work, she had taken her bath. She did her work in the morning. She took her bath and got ready for the dinner on the stove, getting going. And she sat on the couch reading the Ladies' Home Journal until he walked in the door. And when he walked through the door, she said, "Oh, your father's home." And she'd jump off the couch and run to the door and give him a big hug. He was the man of the house, and she adored him. And so we had a good, what would you say?
Love story.
Yes, and respect for one another. He was the boss, and I feel like I grew up in that era where the father was the boss, and the mother was the one that made the home. And we always had a cooked meal, and we sat down at the table together. And today, that's what I notice people don't do, these younger families, because the wife and the husband are working, and they don't have the time to do the things that the parents in my generation had the time to do. My father would walk in the door. He wouldn't say, "What's for dinner tonight, Amanda?" He'd say, "What's for dessert?" That was his favorite. That was his favorite thing, because my mother always made a homemade dessert.
Well, I loved hearing your stories today. They are such a delight because you are from a generation that is long gone, sad to my heart. The glitz and glamour of Hollywood old is what I like to think of it, with grace and style. And I always leave my podcast asking everybody a few questions. So, first one for you. Where do you find your joy?
Oh, where do I find my joy? Well, in my wonderful memories, in my gratitude of when I grew up, in the church that I have found, where I've made friends, and in the good friends that I've made that I still have contact with. I might not always see them, but there's contact with whoever's left. But just being alive, thankful for the health that I still have, but the memories.
Nice. That's really
I have
nice.
Wonderful, wonderful memories. I have no regrets.
That's so nice. And now, where do you find excitement?
Well, not having a husband.
I love it.
I love freedom. I would love to have a man in my life, but there's so few that are alive. You know,
oh, you're
there's
hysterical.
Not so few alive at my age with the energy.
Oh, you're hysterical. Mary Kay, thank you so much for sharing your time with me. You are truly a blessed soul. Thank you very much.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate the conversation.
Until we meet again, be happy, be safe, and be groovy.